Now that we know the origins of Bessbrook and its special history, our story looks now to the work that preserves the character of the area. Time has had its way with the structures that once inspired this little village. But nestled in the Derrymore woods stands Derrymore House, a nod to the days of old Bessbrook. Now managed by the National Trust, the story of Bessbrook is preserved by the staff who look after the grounds. Rosemary Mulholland is an avid conservationist with the National Trust and is always more than delighted to tell the tale of Isaac Corry and his Derrymore House.
Derrymore House was built by Isaac Corry, and it was built around about 1780. It was built in the sort of gentrified vernacular style, so it looks like a traditional vernacular cottage, but it's obviously much larger and it was built for someone with more money. The whole domain totals about 100 acres. Normally they weren't built as a house to live in. Obviously it's a very pretty house. You can see behind me here, you know, bright yellow. It's always been yellow as far as we know, with the thatched roof. And originally it was thatched with Shannon reeds. We did some work recently on it to re-thatch part of the roof, and they used Turkish reeds, so they were importing them from there.
And the house has stood the test of time, welcoming visitors from all over the world to see the beautiful landscapes and learn about the history of Isaac Corry. Speaking of, Isaac Corry was born in 1753 to Edward Corry and Catherine Bristow. He was educated at the Royal School of Armagh and later at Trinity College, Dublin, and graduated in 1773 after reading law, and was admitted to the bar in 1771. He enjoyed a brief time as a solicitor before taking his father's seat in the Irish Parliament in 1776. Isaac Corry was considered a man of good breed and spoke very well. He served as equerry to the Duke of Cumberland, and in 1783 he was expected to enter high office and was considered a career politician. And one thing a man in power needs is a home to lord from.
The grounds of Derrymore House would have been a domain for Isaac Corry, where he would have had his stock, his animals, his horses, crops, producing food for the household. It was laid out in the parkland style, which was the height of fashion at that time, by John Sutherland, who was a distinguished landscape architect in Ireland, and he was a disciple of Capability Brown, who is probably the best known landscape architect in the UK and Ireland. Well, the design of Derrymore House is laid out in a U shape, so there are two wings and then a back wing here. It's also a single-storey dwelling with a basement. It's thatched in the style of a vernacular cottage, but obviously in a much grander scale. When this house was first built, Bessbrook Village as we know it now didn't exist. There would have been a few houses in the area. The house passed through a number of different owners. There was the Smith family, the Youngs, and then eventually it was purchased by the Richardson family when they moved to Bessbrook. But they never lived in the house here. They built their own dwelling up in the woods, which was known as the Wood House. In the late 1950s, the last remaining Richardson in Bessbrook donated the house and some of the grounds to the National Trust. The National Trust have acquired all the grounds that the Richardsons would have had here at Derrymore, and the grounds are open to the public all year round, and the house opens itself a few days a year, and it is hoped that it will be developed and more utilised. And the Trust has been working with the Friends of Derrymore group and the Council to try and secure funding to develop the site even more for visitors.
Isaac considered himself a man of the people, and during the 1778 revolution and emancipation of Catholics, Isaac was a supporter of repealing the penal laws in Ireland. Many believed him to support the interests of the locals he lived near, but after many years of slow movement, the tide began to turn against him, and soon people realised that maybe he was just a career politician. Nevertheless, Isaac continued on his career as a member of Henry Grattan's Patriot Party and was appointed Adjutant General of the volunteer movement. The movement was outside government control and was utilised by Grattan to secure free trade, election reform and the independence of the Irish Parliament. In 1778, the British Viceroy offered Isaac the post of Surveyor General and he accepted and continued to hold for a record 30 years. In 1799, he was appointed Chancellor of the Irish Exchequer and made his debut in Westminster, delivering the budget for Ireland. Rebellions were rife due to the lack of movement in Catholic emancipation, and it was reported that Isaac's popularity began to decline. Even though the majority of voters in Newry supported the Union because they were promised Catholic emancipation, the fact that it never materialised meant Isaac lost support in the area. It was recorded that on his routes to Dublin to attend Parliament, the people of Newry would come out and pelt his carriage with stones. To avoid the townspeople, he built a special road that connected his house in Derrymore to the road to Dublin, and this became known forever as the Chancellor's Road.
Well, Derrymore House and the grounds is a beautiful parkland. It's open to the public all through the year. There's lots of walks, take you through the woodland, around the parkland. There's beautiful views of the Craigmore Viaduct and the Moore Mountains, so it's a lovely spot to visit and bring a picnic and just enjoy the day here.